Thank you. I've only recently moved to London. I moved here 2 weeks before lockdown started. And before I moved, I spent a lot of time online looking at London and all the cool stuff I get to do here. Then I moved. All the stuff I'd seen online didn't exist anymore. Right? None of that information was accurate. Basically, I got catfished by the UK. I thought within my first 6 weeks I would have made a bunch of new friends. Instead, the most meaningful social interaction I had in my first 6 weeks was when I got the same Deliveroo driver 2 days in a row. I'm not sure you're technically mates if one party has to tip each time you get together. It's expensive. Here I've moved into a very small flat. It's all I can afford. The kitchen in my flat's particularly small, which makes cooking quite difficult, especially when a recipe uses the word meanwhile. I can't afford the space to meanwhile. I feel like the recipe is mocking me when it uses that word. It's like step 1, preheat the oven to 180 degrees. Step 2, maybe you shouldn't have done that arts degree. Meanwhile, dice an onion in the lounge room, you fuck up. I've moved here from Australia. We're thinking of becoming an independent republic at the moment, leaving the Commonwealth. And the big argument for Australian independence is that the Queen is not Australian and doesn't represent us, which is incorrect. Right? The Queen's quite a good representation of Australians. I mean, she has a distinctive accent, she loves sport, and a lot of her family are very racist. Like, the only way she could represent us more is if she moved to Clapham and developed a coke habit. Yeah. Right? Nothing says royalty like snorting lines through banknotes that have your own face on it. It's class. A lot of conservative commentators have come out against Australian independence. Katie Hopkins came out quite strongly against. Yeah, quite a piece of work, Katie Hopkins. Right? She hates so much stuff. Right? She hates immigrants, she hates Muslims, she hates overweight people. She says it's their own fault they're fat. And a few years ago, she did a TV show where she gained a bunch of weight, then lost it again to prove her point. But to lose the weight, she did intermittent fasting, where she only ate early in the morning, very late at night, which is amazing because essentially she accidentally did Ramadan. Yeah. She's like, I want to show these fat people how easy it is by converting to Islam. It's incredible. I like it here in London. I've moved to East London. There's a lot of Cockneys where I live. It's a very confusing dialect, Cockney. I've been trying to learn. I've been watching EastEnders like it's fucking Duolingo. Not that useful, unfortunately. The only thing I've learned is how to accuse my husband of cheating on me. Before I moved, I thought East London was going to be like a Guy Ritchie movie with like proper geezers and gangsters. I thought there'd be people like the Cray twins who ran an extortion racket there in the 60s. It's not like that at all. It's all gentrified and hipster. Now, if the Cray twins lived in East London today, they wouldn't run an extortion racket. They'd run a vegan tapas restaurant called Cray Cray. And their only crime would be charging £9 for a thimble of broccoli hummus. I do like East London. We've got London Stadium out there, of course, the Olympic Stadium. And often, after many years, Olympic venues become these derelict shitholes that you'd never want to visit. But I've been quite surprised by London Stadium that they decided to accelerate that process by giving it to West Ham. Michael, a West Ham fan? No. You look like one. They built this incredible stadium and then thought to themselves, how can we make no one want to come here as soon as possible? It was either give it to West Ham or turn it into a giant branch of Jamie's Italian. They were the options. I think what I like most about London is the fact that the city has such a long, rich history. The city I'm from in Australia was founded just over 100 years ago, right? It's very young, doesn't have that. Although the area has been inhabited by Indigenous people for over 40,000 years. And people often make that mistake. They forget that Australia's a really, really old place. It's like when someone tells you how old Pharrell Williams is. Like, you're always wrong by at least 35,000 years. And Australian history gets whitewashed like that all the time, right? So does British history. Yeah, everywhere in this country is named after white dudes. To the point where white dudes got bored naming places after themselves and started naming places after the idea of themselves instead. You got two big islands off the coast. They were like Isle of Wight and Man. Why not?